There are 14 kingdoms you must complete before beating Super Mario Odyssey. Speedrunners already have the fastest routes figured out for most of these kingdoms, but there's one kingdom that not even the best players in the world have fully figured out yet, and this kingdom would be none other than Luncheon. Now don't be mistaken, Mario Odyssey is still a relatively fresh game with potential to be improved in all aspects, but when it comes to Luncheon, there is an absolute goldmine of strategies that have yet to be implemented into world record runs. So while most Mario Odyssey speedrunners believe that Wooded Kingdom is the holy grail of Odyssey speedrunning, given its absurd tricks and sequences of movement, let's take a look at how Luncheon could potentially change the game forever. But before we do that, I have a quick word from today's sponsor, which is Fabletics.
So Fabletics was nice enough to send me some pairs of their clothes, and let me say, as someone who is like super big on how the texture of my clothing feels, Fabletics is quite literally perfect. It can be hard to find clothes that are both comfortable but also something that's comfortable to wear in public, and Fabletics is literally the perfect blend of both. Not only can you wear these clothes when you go out or when you go to sleep, but you can also wear these clothes when you go to the gym, and they even have this fanny pack and hat. But my favorite product of theirs has definitely got to be the shorts, because not only are they comfortable, they're perfect for literally any scenario, and they're water repellent, and they have these cool zip up pockets that I like a lot. But yeah, if you're just like looking to spice up your clothing haul while also getting clothes that are genuinely comfortable to wear, then I'd highly recommend signing up for their VIP program. Not only do you get $10 on shorts, but you get 80% off on an entire first order, and as a VIP, you get up to 50% off all products all day, every day.
When Odyssey first came out, Luncheon already had what was thought to be a very solid route. As you start the kingdom, you are able to collect these 2 moons before fighting Spirit for your 3rd moon. From there, you could go to the sub area and collect this quick secret moon. After that, you'd make your way into the town to collect a few more moons that were all within close proximity of each other. Once the town is finished, players would then go out of their way to get the Salt Pile moon, as it was on its way to the Fork sub area, in which you could collect 2 more moons. You could then use this lava bubble and some fancy movement to collect this moon. Since we already defeated Spirit, we now have access to the 2nd story mission, which is to use this Panbro to break the cheese and pull this lever. While these 2 moons weren't exactly the fastest, they allowed for access to this part of the kingdom. After getting both this torch moon alongside this moon, you can finish out the kingdom by completing the 3rd story mission, which is to collect this multi-moon, and from there, you'd be ejected back to the Odyssey. For the next 3 years, this is the route that players would follow, but with that being said, some major changes and discoveries would be made during this 3-year period, and it all started in January of 2018. Using this turnip, which you are able to collect upon getting this moon, you are able to clip the Panbro into the moon's barrier. This trick was huge, as it saved you from the grueling process of having to pull this lever, not to mention that it saved close to 7 seconds. When this trick was implemented into a run for the first time, the world record was a 104.50, with Luncheon itself being completed in around 6.5 minutes. By the time Nitro had achieved the first sub-hour, players were completing Luncheon in just under 6 minutes and 10 seconds. But after sub-hour came an unexpected change to the game. Up until this point, speedrunners played Mario Odyssey on version 1.0 of the game because it not only made these 2 tricks possible, but it also made Turnip Clip possible. Then 1.3 came out, and while all of the 1.0 exclusive tricks were still patched, the loads were significantly faster, making it the new fastest version to run the game on. Despite the route remaining the same, a lot of nifty movement optimizations would help bring Luncheon's completion time all the way down to a low 6.0x. This route would very quickly become obsolete though, as Luncheon was about to become a lot more difficult. It was known for a while that you could actually skip the Spirit fight by doing this triple jump, which will allow you to just barely dodge the fight from triggering itself. This really wasn't all that useful though, because as I've already mentioned, defeating beating Spewer gives you access to more moons. This meant that if players were going to skip Spewer, they'd have to not only replace these 2 moons, but they'd also have to replace a multi-moon. While Luncheon may be one of the bigger kingdoms, there aren't many moons to choose from upon arrival, let alone 5 moons that would be faster to route in. But with a little bit of cheating, there would be exactly 5 moons that could be used to replace the old Luncheon route, which would in turn add up to almost 10 seconds of time save. After skipping Spewer, the route would continue on as normal until the town, in which slots would be used to replace Spewer. From there, you'd go straight to the pillar and continue on with the route as normal again. But instead of going to the cheese to pull the lever, you would now do this. If you do a roll on a slope and then press Cappy right before you are about to bonk on the wall, then what will happen is that the roll will cancel itself, and instead of you bonking on the wall, you will instead clip right through it. In doing this roll cancel clip, we are able to collect this cheese moon without using the pan bro to gain access to the sub area. Once you exit the sub area, you climb up here again, but instead of using a turnip to do turnip clip, you instead bring this golden turnip all the way to the town so that you can then combo it with the other turnip moon we already collect. Once you collect the second turnip moon, you'd then collect this last moon before exiting the town. Now, under normal circumstances, there would be no way you could optimally get to where this moon is without progressing the story, but since the developers of the game forgot to remove these invisible question blocks, you are able to do this tight jump to just barely make it over to the other side. From there, you are able to collect these 2 moons in the sub area, and then you could close out the kingdom by completing this timer challenge for our final moon. So with some harder movement, a roll cancel clip, and some more difficult moons, we now had a route in which we could skip Spewer. There was just one main problem with this route, and that was none other than the roll cancel clip. This clip was actually discovered to be much easier on 1.0, but since we were now on 1.3, getting the clip within the first few tries, let alone at all, was insanely difficult. Even to this day, we don't quite understand this trick, but if there ever came a day where we did, then getting it first try in a run would save loads of time. But since we were now on 1.3, this meant that the loads were faster, so instead of doing this complex roll cancel clip, players figured out that we could just replace all of that with a shot moon. While this reroute is a few seconds slower than the alternative, it still ended up being 6 to 7 seconds faster than the Spewer route, and to this day, this is the route that we see in world record speedruns. Nowadays, top level speedrunners complete Luncheon in around the 5 minute and 45 second range. If they were to add Salt Clip into runs, they'd probably be able to just barely squeeze out a sub 540, but there's one more trick that I haven't mentioned yet, and this trick saves an additional 5 seconds. These are the slope vaults, and while the trick itself doesn't look too crazy, it is easily one of the most difficult and precise tricks the entire game has to offer. The first slope vault actually isn't too bad, but it's the second vault that has left players completely stumped. If we could find out a way to consistently do the second vault, then I could very much see this trick being added into world record runs, but even then, this is a trick that would obviously be near the end of the run, not to mention that there is a lot of risk involved for what is seemingly a little reward. Nonetheless, a top level speedrunner who goes by the name of Hotboy SR was able to get a new Luncheon world record with the trick, but outside of that, no one else has been able to get a good time with it, which says a lot considering the fact that we've known about slope vaults for over 2 years at this point. To put into perspective how arduous both Salt Clip and slope vaults are, we've already added frame perfect moon clips into the run, we've already added this insanely precise corner clip into the run, and we've even added this diabolical trick that is done right at the end of the run. If we can solve Luncheon Kingdom, then it might just become the new holy grail of Mario Odyssey speedrunning.